Hello, I'm Dr. Glenn L. Thompson, Professor Emeritus at Asia Lutheran Seminary. In this last video in this series, we'll describe the customs surrounding death and burial in ancient Israel. When a death occurred, wailing began immediately. This wailing spread from house to house until the whole village knew of the death. The women of the neighborhood often continued wailing and lamentation until the body was buried. At times, professional mourners were also called in. Besides the wailing, mourners showed their anguish and sorrow in several ways. They wore sackcloth, tore their clothes, and beat their breasts. One cannot help but think that some of the extreme mourning customs were carryovers from pagan culture. The female relatives then would wash the body of the dead person, anoint it with spices, and wrap it in strips of linen. They also placed a small cloth over the face. Then the body was put on a mat and carried in procession to the place of burial. Because of the heat, the burial took place usually on the day of death or the following day, a custom still practiced in the Middle East. The mourners continued fasting until after the burial, and then they had a small meal. The closest friends and relatives sometimes continued their mourning for weeks or even months. Because of the rocky soil, the Jews often buried their dead in natural or man-made caves. This was especially true of the wealthy. Often the wealthy would obtain a family tomb for their extended family, as Abraham arranged for his family. Inside was a larger main room with slabs around the side walls. The body of the newly deceased person was placed on one of these slabs. A year later, a second burial would take place. Because of the hot weather in Israel, the flesh would be gone by that time, and only the bones remained. The tomb would then be reopened, and the bones of the recently deceased person were gathered off the slabs and deposited in a cavern at the rear of the tomb, where the bones of his ancestors had been placed. In this way, a person was literally gathered to his people, as it says in Genesis 25. It may be that the man in Matthew 8, whom Jesus called to follow him, but who requested first to go and bury his father, was actually on his way to such a re-burial. This concludes our series on life events in ancient Israel. You can learn more about the life and customs of Bible times from our ALS book, Bible Background. It's available in both Chinese and English. May God continue to bless you as you study His Word.